All right. Good morning, my political kitty cats. Um, so this stream is probably going to be relatively short because I got things to do. But I had some time this morning, and I've been thinking about this for a while. I was not going to make a video, or I wasn't going to do a stream about it, but I think it's pertinent. It came up in a different way, and because I was thinking about this stream. And I was like, I have a little time. Should I do it? And I wasn't gonna, but then it came up in another conversation I was having. So I um I shared this tweet from is that what they're called now? Tweets. I shared this tweet with a group that has my friend Sam and my friend Trip and my friend Sarah in it. And it was this George MacDonald tweet, which was and this gets into like PVK's definition of a Christian or anyone's definition of a Christian. And George MacDonald just says, a Christian is just one that does what the Lord tells him, neither more nor less than that makes him a Christian, makes a Christian. So one that does what the Lord tells him, neither more nor less. And then Tripp was pushing back on me and, quoting the typical verses that I hear in response to this, which is like, confess with your mouth that you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and you will be saved, that sort of thing. And it gets into issues of all the self-identity issues. And I was saying these are the kinds of lines of thinking that end up with saying things like Sam is not a Christian because he's a biblical Unitarian, whatever. And I think Sam is, and how God is going to work out the self-identity and all the intellectual stuff, I do not forefront, and I just think that'll get worked out. But it's very related to, hey buddy, I miss you too. It's very related to Christian empire, and then it just reminded me of Christian empire because I think all these things are tied. And it's very tied to that Paul Kingsnorth. So as someone who converted to Orthodoxy, for very Protestant reasons, as we've talked about a lot in the corner, and I just don't know any way around that. Like I'm culturally a Protestant. That is the milieu and the space that I've been raised in because America is a Protestant country. It was founded by Protestants. The spirit and the ethos in which we live in America is very Protestant. And so, and I'm not separate from that. No man is an island. And so in my choosing of Orthodoxy and movement toward Orthodoxy, it's a very Protestant move. I don't know how it could be otherwise. But there's two videos that are really connected to this that are excellent. I didn't make any clips of Paul Kingsnorth, but I did make some clips of Martin Shaw from a section of his talk with Mark Vernon, which was one of my favorite things recently. There's that clip that I made that's on my channel of Martin Shaw is, man, he says, like, that dude is speaking my heart. We are cut from the same cloth, the same spirit, whatever you want to say. And because he said there's a section in there where he said his priest told him, I'm not so sure that you're sharing orthodoxy with people. And because Martin Shaw talks to people like Mark Vernon and a lot of other people who are definitely not converting to orthodoxy and who are outside the auspices of orthodoxy. And Martin Shaw says in there that his dad said later, he was speaking with his father, and his father's like, yeah, you're just sharing God with people. And like, what are the lines between those things? Sharing orthodoxy and sharing God. And I think all of this stuff stems from an idea of Christian empire. And Yosef in PVK's video for today, his homeroom video, which I think is on, I didn't bring this up, which is on, what was the title of his video today? Oh, come on. Yeah, so it's on this topic, against Christian civilization, Oz Against Strikes Back. And one of the things that was so great is Yosef Yosef had some really great comments on it. God, Yosef's awesome. But he said Christianity has produced many civilizations, sometimes one's deeply in tension with each other. Which of those civilizations, if any, does Oz or ARC seek to renew? ARC, the Jordan Peterson, whatever group, whatever was it stand for? It's like meant to be his alternative to the World Economic Forum or whatever it is. I don't know. And he says, what is the moment of greatness of the particular one anyone has in mind that they wish to re-seek? I don't know. I'll have to share this video. I don't know how much Julian watches my videos, but this is a conversation that we've had forever in the corner. And Julian is our Hutterite Canadian friend. And I've never worshipped or been a part of any of these traditions, but I have a deep Anabaptist in me. That's a deep conviction within me of my, and that's one of the labels that I'll adopt on myself is Christian anarchism, which is a very, it's not a popular one. Most people don't like it. And I think most people, like Christian Universalist or anything, most people are often very confused by what I mean by that. And the initial idea that jumps to their mind isn't what I'm talking about. So that's why you have to have conversations about it, because it's like, it's that whole tell me about the God you don't believe in. I probably don't believe in him either. Well, tell me about the Christian anarchism that you believe in. It's probably not what's in my head. And the idea of like straw manning versus steel manning, all that stuff, requires a lot of conversations. But increasingly, I want to talk about it in very, very simple terms that are not so abstract. And I often want to go back to the fractal level of the family, because I think that's where things are the most clear. Geez, Jeff and Tim having some convos in the comments. I want to talk about a specific thing, Tim. I'm not wanting to talk about your pet project. I'll lay it out abstractly, and then I'll get particular with the family illustration. So it's this verse that I'm increasingly saying is the summary of all of my. Yeah, I do want to put a link in. I don't want to. Yosef, I'll post the link in a little bit. I'll try to be quick because I do want to talk to you, and I don't have much time. So sorry, buddy. I just want to get this out. I'll try to be quick. So it's this verse from St. James, which is, receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. And it's essentially that I do not believe that God is a colonizing force from outside that ultimately, and I don't believe that salvation is ultimately salvation or union with God is a product of your will. It's not something that's ultimately inside your control. And listen, Calvinists, I'm not saying probably what you think I am either, because I'm not really a determinist. I was talking about this with a friend the other day because I don't think anyone understand how causation really works. And a lot of that is the complications related to time and what it really means to choose and to will something, and how that relates to our conscious awareness and our articulable self-aware consciousness, and how that relates to time. Because I think the reality of our choices are much more like a fairy story and a dream than it is, or it's equally as much of that, as much as it is like our waking egoic consciousness is, and the narrative that we layer on top of our waking experience of consciousness. And I would relate that to like quantum indeterminacy and quantum states that relate, that where like space and time get very fuzzy. I don't think PBK is a determinist either. I don't think anyone really is. And maybe that's some straw manning of Calvinism, but That was always my understanding of Calvinism when I self-identified as one. And this, I think ultimately that's where I think ultimately everybody kind of thinks the same thing. I think we all ultimately agree, but we talk past one another in our narratives. Okay, and went on a rabbit trail. I'm trying to be succinct, Joseph. Sorry. So choice. We don't choose. Receive with meekness the implanted word. So it's one of these weird things, or I often quote from the liturgy. We have this line, and who we said of Christ, we say, who without change became man and was glorified, O Christ our God, trampling down death by death. And it's one of those weird, it's a weird Christian koan, who without change became man. There you go. What does that mean? It definitely doesn't mean some sort of linear causal thing. It's some sort of weird koan, who without change became. That's like doesn't make sense on logic, you know? It's the same thing as like receive with meekness the implanted word. Well, how can you receive what's already there? Because it's implanted, the implanted logos. Well, how do you receive that? Yeah. I would say that you live into the reality of what you are. You accept what you are instead of fighting against it. And that's like true and false self. You know, Thomas Merton talked about this. It's very a Maximus idea, gnomic and natural wills. And so it's Simba, become who you are, that sort of thing. And I don't think that, and this gets to civilization, is that can never, and it gets into my criticisms of literalism, literaryism, and any sort of empire that operates out of the medium of the written prescriptive and tries to externally coerce prescriptions, written prescriptions, literal prescriptions onto other people that they don't want to voluntarily receive, because that's all in the realm of will. External will trying to impose and internal will trying to accept. And I would say neither of those are representative of what it means to be truly human, which is to receive as gift with meekness and humility the implanted word, which can't be willed. It can be received, but often how it's received, it has to be in humility, which is probably why Lewis called humility not a virtue, but like the thing that's underneath all virtue. It's the wellspring out of which all virtue comes. And the last thing I want to say, and then I want to open this up, is because I don't have time. But this is so clear in a family. And everybody who's in here, even if you don't have kids, you're in a family. I'm learning this with my teenagers and with my kids. Me as the king, and this gets into civilization fractally, whatever, the king of my family, the father, or a mother. I mean, you're just going to do it in different ways, and there's masculine and feminine dynamics to that. I cannot externally impose on my children things that they don't want, that they don't want to receive. I cannot give them gifts that they don't want to accept. And I can resent them. I can be mad at them. I can punish them. I can try to do all sorts of things, but I will never be able to give them a gift they don't want to receive. I cannot, because it's a synergistic, sympathetic. It's a harmonious interaction. It requires their acceptance of it. You cannot give someone anything they don't want to accept it, good or bad. I mean, bad, good or bad. You can just hurt them. And so, and the tools of empire are, this is my Christian anarchism, are violence. I mean, that's the only way that an empire can get you to do things that you want, either implicit or explicit violence, either overt violence or covert violence through systems. And I just think that has no part in Christianity. And even if it's within Orthodoxy, and you can see manifestations of it within Orthodoxy, I don't like any of that. I don't like Christian empire because of all these things. Okay. I don't know that I can really say it better than that. And so I'm going to copy this, open it up. Hopefully, Yosef, if you're still there, you can come in and talk some. And Tim, come on. These kinds of things, you know that's not true. Like, please be charitable. You know that's not true. Yes, I do. But I believe the kingdom of God is within you, to quote some scripture at you, or from one of the epistles of John. No one will need anyone to teach them, for God will teach them from the inward man. How do you make sense of those things? All right, I'm gonna go look. Because of everything that I just said, you can't receive a gift you don't want to accept, Tim. And so, like, if kingdom of God means external coercion, yeah, I don't believe in that. That's the empire I don't believe in. What up, David?
Hello.
Fantastic mustache. Happy, horrible, glorious, and terrible American political voting day.
Yeah, glad to speak to you on the 5th of November, which remembers
Remember the 5th of November.
Yes. So happy to speak to you on the dawn of the Civil War. Yosef. Shalom.
Hi.
I mean, maybe if we all agreed that coercion, external coercion, is not the way to healthy relationships, we wouldn't have a civil war. Anyhow, Yosef, hello.
Hi guys. I'll probably be driving through a dead zone in a couple minutes, but I should get the reception back after that. So your prologue there isn't exactly what I expected it to say. And I don't know, have you seen the Kingsnorth video?
Yeah.
Okay. So the part that I was referencing actually was not toward the end, which Philippa's commented. I'm driving, so I couldn't figure it out how to do that. Until
I went back and re-listened to that section, but yeah.
But much earlier, he first brings up is when he first brings up Anthony, St. Anthony, whatever. And he's talking about the Desert Fathers. He's talking about going out into, I would say something that might be very easily construed to be kind of an individualistic retreat into nature to maybe preserve one's sanity / truthfulness to the gospel. But I don't know that I found. Honestly, what I found most interesting was, so I wasn't sure I understood him, and then when I asked PBK that question in the comments, I had even more trouble, I think, understanding the two responses I got. And I don't know. I have a feeling I'm probably closer to Philippa's on his. I understand his metaphor. I think what he was getting at, if I'm seeing the thing behind the thing correctly, I think I'm closer to what because to me, culture also, is scaled and thing.
Oh, dang it. You're really roboting.
Yeah. I'll wait.
Okay. Yeah, pause. David.
I came on to ask you about something in particular. Are you allowed to be a Christian anarchist as an Orthodox Christian?
I don't know.
Because I
mean, these are questions.
The Orthodox Church anoints kings.
Yeah.
Well, don't you kind of have to be a monarchist?
I don't know. I mean, you'd probably get varying ideas. I mean, this is the thing within Orthodoxies. There's no magisterium. I mean, it's very similar, I think, in a lot of ways to Jewish tradition and like Talmudic tradition, because it's an ongoing eternal, unending conversation. I mean, that's how I understand it. And so
there's people in the comments saying no to me. So
you're not allowed.
Or I don't know who the no is for. Who is the no for?
Okay, so Stephen, who's also Orthodox, says yes, you are. And then T. Grogan says no, he's not Orthodox. So does that count? Can you speak for other traditions? I believe Nathaniel is Orthodox. So I don't know. Like, this is one of those things that again, like, this almost illustrates my point, though, of like, receive with meekness the implanted word. In a sense, this, I don't know, is this my American individualism or my own? Like, there's a couple quotes I want to throw at you. One of them is this. I have this. Who's the it's downstairs. There's it's a print of a American illustrator, painter, Norman Rockwell. Yeah. That's about, and this is pertinent to, but it's like, it's from, what does it say? It's about conscience. I can't remember the thing now. Anyhow, but the other thing that illustrates it also is this line that I love from Cormac. I want to find it and go read it. I have it saved on my phone. But Cormac McCarthy has this great quote about conscience, and it's very true. Okay, so here it comes. Yosef is coming back. I'll read this and then go back to Yosef. But long before morning, I knew what I was seeking to discover was a thing I'd always known, that all courage was a form of constancy, that it is always himself that the coward abandoned first. After this, all other betrayals come easily. And I think that's it. Like, you can't, this is what I mean about receiving a gift. You can't betray your conscience in receiving a gift. So, like, if Orthodoxy demands that I can't be a Christian or anarchist in the way that I understand it, and I can't identify that way, and I believe that's true in conscience to what God requires of me, then that's my Martin Luther moment, I guess. Like, I can't do what you're asking of me. It would be to lie. If we want to say that somehow there's some combination of what we're both trying to say and preserve in some pursuit of truth that's outside the truth we both currently apprehend, I'm okay with that. But if you want to seek to colonize me to your current understanding of that, I can't do that. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to betray myself. That's Job. I'm not going to betray my integrity. I'm not going to do that. I mean, maybe that's hubristic, but I'm not, I don't know how to do that without, I could shut up. I could just never say anything.
Yosef, you have returned in glory.
Sorry, I'm processing the thing you just read and trying to see it. I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation too much. Where I'm losing the thread, Luke, is what you're talking about has to do with either culture or civilization. Because culture and civilization to me are both social things, right? I cannot produce my own culture as an individual, and I cannot be my own civilization or producer. Right? I can embody a culture or embody a civilization to some degree as like a particular to a universal, right? But like I can't, I cannot be the producer. Like a culture or civilization does not come out of my consciousness, even my divine one. Like that's not how it works, right? It comes out of interacting with other people.
Yeah, it kind of comes out of all of ours. Yeah.
So this is where I was like, and this is where I think I'm much more in line with Flebas this year. I don't know how to pronounce this on like they're totally intertwined. Like the civil cultures are produced and are grown entwined within the civilization, and the civilization can have many cultures, subculture, whatever within it. And to some degree, a culture can have or create multiple civilizations to some degree. This was my other question that I had in the comments there about like, hey, Christianity has produced many civilizations, and insofar as Christianity is a culture, which maybe it isn't, maybe that's a bad use of the term. like I don't know that I see a difference between these two terms that makes it useful to me. What you're talking about, I think, is totally different.
Okay.
Or to some degree, interpersonal, insofar as I have a view of truth and you have a view of truth, and we will work toward a greater truth between those two things, or a greater view of truth. I don't know. Insofar as I'm not imposing mine on you, but that there's still, I mean, this is one of my favorite verses. Speaking of favorite verses, truth shall grow from the ground. Right? This truth is something that is not in heaven. Actually, has to grow from below. Is this which is very, its own kind of has its own quantic properties. If you wanted to come up with a pithy quote to say that, but I think as soon as we start talking about other people and saying, okay, well, I'm going to work with you and David, and we have, and maybe not even consciously, but we produce a culture on the stream, right? Culture. I mean, I wouldn't call this a culture, but BOM, I'd say, as a proto culture, right? At some point that is going to need some sorts of rules, even if they're very, very vague and abstract and basic, and even if we don't have a specific leader, we reject hierarchy as a guiding principle, all those things. It can still be anarchic to some degree, whatever. But at some point, when does that become a civilization versus a culture? Embodiment is a big part of it, I think, honestly. But who here is going to argue against embodiment? Right? That's
right.
But that is a shift when culture becomes a civilization, is when things become embodied. Yeah, there's going to be some sort of structure. I mean, we can call it political, we can call it, normative, moral, whatever, but at some point there'll be a structure. And at some point, it morphs very slowly into something that we could formally call civilization. But these are all very slippery terms that maybe aren't useful. There's just a spectrum of whatever this is versus whatever BOM is versus whatever a wider culture is. And this is the problem of scale, right? And this is what I know you want to talk about. You don't like talking. Oh, let's talk about scale. You don't like scale, but at the same time, how do you interact? I mean, especially today of all days, right? Guy Fawkes Day and Election Day, right? How does an individual have a role or a voice or an impact on society? Is exactly or not, right? I mean, but I don't think Kingsnorth is saying he doesn't want to have an impact, right? I mean, Kingsnorth is as much to me. So I said, is an arc also a fox? So in my other comments, because they're trying to save. If foxes are people trying to save the world as opposed to lead the world. To me, I see both Kingsnorth and Arc as trying to save the world in their own ways, right? I don't see either of them being lions. Insofar as the lion-fox distinction is useful, to me, they're both big foxes. I don't know, maybe they're foxes trying to produce lions, but that's not how nature works.
Mm-hmm. Also, there becomes the mythology of the movements and the individuals. So Guy Fawkes, for instance, is actually far more of he's just a Catholic monarchist.
Yep. People
think of him as an anarchist because of a movie that a bunch of trans women made. But if you get past that, it even the comic, it makes it a lot more clear the disconnect between the historical Guy Fawkes and the guy in the mask. That's what people think of when they think of the history. They think of the only other good movie that the Wachowskis made.
Yeah. Let me I want to say one more thing, and then I'm just going to leave you guys to it, and you can shut it down when you want. So I guess so all that you said is I don't know, it's interesting, and this is something I'm still chewing on. I'm not saying I understand this. Right now, I love, in as much as I understand the Talmudic process, and I know you guys have spoken about this, Chezi said this kind of thing. I really do. I think seeing TLC as like a modern day interfaith Talmudic tradition is kind of, I like that, because that is very much pursuing this truth that neither of us fully comprehend together and working it out in a way that's non-zero sum, which is fantastic. But like even this, like T. Grogan said this, and I just want to illustrate this because it's part of my point, part of my larger point of both orthodoxy and myself and my criticism of confessionalism and literalism. He says, like, read the decrees of the first 7 ecumenical councils. That's what orthodoxy is. That is what orthodoxy is from a very Protestant perspective. That is not what orthodoxy is. Orthodoxy isn't contained in the written words of those 7 ecumenical councils. This is like, that's what a Catholic and a Protestant would think, because that's how they operate. That isn't how Orthodox operate. Orthodox have a tradition. It's not the tradition over the written word. It's both of them in a constant tension of ongoing interpretation. For how long? I don't know. A long time. It's ongoing, and that's what allows you to not be a constant restorationist trying to go back to like some fetishized, perfect idealistic utopian time of Byzantium or this or that. It's what allows you to be like a traditional progressive and to innovate. All right.
I hear you. I've been reading about the Council of Nicaea and Alexandria and stuff right now, and I do have a hard time quite buying that argument fully, because the very word orthodoxy means right belief, right? It's not right practice or right tradition. Insofar as orthodoxy's practice a certain way, great, but there is this rootedness, I think, to creedalism at some level. I mean, even the very thing you quoted from your liturgy that you love so much, that poem about God becoming man, but without change. That's a creedal. That piece of liturgy was very much like a big contention creedally, and it has to do with theology and Neoplatonism and how it becomes Christianized.
Right. Yeah.
So like I can't separate it the way you are. Because to me, there's still. I mean, and I'm maybe because even though I'm Jewish, I've been shaped by living in the West and Catholics and Protestant interactions. I don't know, but like I have a hard time fully saying like, okay, that is what your view of orthodoxy is the right one.
No, for sure, and I don't think you should. I don't ever claim to be that. I am within the culture of orthodoxy. I am one of those microcosms. Like, I don't define it. That's not my job. But I don't think that's any Orthodox person's job to do that. Not even patriarchs. I don't think that's what they're meant to do.
Is it very Augustinian? Just out of curiosity, like this very heavy emphasis on finding the thing within you. Is this typical with an Orthodoxy, or is this much more kind of a Western Augustinian like take on within like that you've melded?
I don't think it's an individual kind of thing, because I think that whole sacred self separation thing. There's like even this is, and PVK has talked about this from the Institutes. There's this Calvin quote that I love, that I know, like I quote it all the time, and I don't often tell people it's Calvin, but and PVK has brought it up before, and I know that's just from my constant bringing it up. But there's a really great Calvin quote about the lines between man and God. And this is why I'll say sometimes, like, every meaningful intellectual conversation is about the nature of the God-man distinction. Like, I think even within Judaism, like Judaism has those conversations. And I think, well, I'm not going to be able to find it really quick, but the Calvin quote is essentially like, it's really hard to discern those lines between God and man. And often you don't know which one gives rise and brings forth the other. And I think that's right, and that's true. So like within Orthodoxy, when all this stuff that I'm talking about, and I'm saying receive with meekness the implanted word, I'm not saying like my secret sacred self, and I'm not leaning into an overly authenticity kind of a culture thing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I can't. Whatever this I don't even like the subjective objective categories, but whatever this objective real truth that is that people want me to confess or affirm or say or whatever, I can't do. Me lying to myself can't be doing that. So no matter what you want from me, I can't give it to you if it's not honest. And I just don't know. That just seems to me to be like a absolute axiomatic truth. Fidelity, faithfulness can't be lies. It can't be built on lies. All right, I'm going to listen in. I got to go. I got to get going.
There's a bigger conversation to have here, but I'm almost at work and I know you need to go. We can continue later. Nice to chat with you.
Well, you guys can keep talking. If you guys want to keep talking, or should we shut it down?
I'm at work in like 5 minutes, maybe.
Okay.
So if David wants to talk for 5 minutes, I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to talk for 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll talk with Joseph for 5 minutes.
Perfect.
Who has the power to shut this down?
I think if you guys leave, it'll just stop.
Oh yeah. Okay. I have no idea how to.
Or if not, I'll keep an eye on it and I'll shut it down. If not, okay.
Cool. Joseph, was this your first child?
No. Is there a second?
Okay. Is there any particular lesson that you feel God is teaching you through the birth of your newest son?
That's an interesting question. I don't. There are definitely lessons, but not a particular one. It's been a long time. I mean, there's a big gap between our two children in age. So there's definitely some differences in how we're approaching things. We have just like a different mindset. I think we're much more ready in many ways. But as far as like receiving a lesson from God that's particular, I don't know. I think
it could just be a focus.
Yeah, there will be. I don't know yet. I mean, one's a boy, one's a girl. So, I mean, there's going to be a difference probably there that I've like begun to think about. Because I know, our oldest is a girl, the baby's a boy. Obviously, there's no difference yet. Like, but no, well, that's not totally true. The circumcision and going through that whole ritual was actually quite something. But thinking about how one raises a boy versus a girl, I guess, is beginning to think about, but very, very early stages. I don't know. It's nice to kind of be reminded what they're like at this age, especially after so long.
Yeah.
But hard for me to answer at the moment. Right, at the moment, he's young. He's still like he doesn't, He cries. He needs to eat. He needs to be changed. He needs to be held. A lot of holding. But as far as like, I haven't seen it yet. Maybe I'm beginning to think about different things. I might lose you. I don't know. What's on your life? What's been up?
I'm in the middle of a play. So I did 3 shows this past weekend, and I got 4 coming up this upcoming weekend. So, yeah, the importance of being earnest. That's why I have this enormous mustache.
Yep, I've helped stage that way.
Oh, have you? I didn't know you were into the dramatic arts.
I did a lot of tech stuff, lighting mostly.
Okay, yeah.
But not since. Not really. I always told college. The family is also.
Joseph, I have lost you. I believe this is a sign from the Lord that we have to stop, despite the fact that I'm really enjoying this. Oh, no, now you see more there.
Yeah.
Now it's just me alone. No one wanted to see that. No one at all. R2D2 has joined the stream. Good to know. Yeah, we should put on a play, and Yosef, I will learn my lines if you figure out the lighting. How about that? I've actually written a play. This is years ago. That is metamodern. That's how I explained it to people. Like I had to explain to people what metamodernism was 6 years ago. PVK. I know this guy.
I felt sorry for you because, you dropped out and there you were alone and now you had to carry the whole thing by yourself.
I appreciate your sympathy.
I don't know what to say. I haven't followed the conversation. I just saw the title of it and I expected Luke to be doing his Luke thing. So
he was and having to defend Christian anarchism and all that business. How are you doing today, Paul, on the eve of the Second Civil War?
Oh gosh. I want America to put down the crack pipe. And by crack pipe, I mean television set and Twitter and everything. Go look at the sky, kiss your child, go to work, eat your lunch. I mean, people. I mean, this is national hysteria, self-inflicted.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing for me because being within artistic communities, the majority of people I'm surrounded by are a lot more left-wing than right-wing. Whereas I'm a very good friend with Jacob in my online life. So slightly different perspective I get there. But I'm kind of convinced that it's going to be election denial no matter who wins, which is exciting. And it's like, how is the Civil War will start different ways depending on who wins, kind of a thing.
Well, it also depends on what you mean by civil war. Right. I mean, Americans love to gossip about people angrily in their homes or maybe go on Twitter.
Yeah.
But, if something disrupts the national supply of Doritos, then we'll have a crisis.
That's an interesting way of saying it. For myself as well, I think people don't know how much fun protests are. I've attended a couple of protests in my younger days. There's so much fun, guys. So if a protest breaks out, there's just people don't budget for the fact that it's a really good time. And so people are going to go out to party.
Yeah. And some people are going to go out. I mean, the last protest I went to, I went to the No Nukes protest in the 70s in New York City. It was like 1 million people. Mm-hmm. And then I protested. This is going to really drive people crazy. I protested Ronald Reagan at the Gerald R. Ford Museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan when I was in college. And the really interesting part of that was we were such polite Christian protesters. We only raised our signs during the pauses in his speech. And then then I got to watch one of my history professors wrestle a woman on the ground because she tried to take down our sign. And I still remember that vividly. The history professor has now gone to be with the Lord, but that was my last protest, and I'm not planning on taking up the placard anytime soon. So
it's politics is such a bizarre sort of moment that I feel that we are in, because I really feel, John, hi John, more than anything else, this political moment has helped to explain the spirits to non-Christians. It has been such a huge entry point for so many conversations I've had with non-Christian friends where when explained through that lens, they just go, oh, yeah, I'm totally on your side, Dave. Like they very, very quickly. So it's been a bit of the grace of God.
You know, if women in Paris aren't eating, that's sort of a thing you can explain, but you can sort of see the spirits more easily. Right now, it's just insane. So, hey, John A.
John, what's happening with you?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
One second. Do you know when John Van Donk is coming back to California?
No, when what?
John
When John
Van
Van
Donk is
Donk
coming
is-
back to California.
He's back in California.
Is he?
Yeah, he came back a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't go to the last estuary, and I don't know. I missed it, dude.
Yeah, he should be back and rested. He's ever since, you know, our first trip to England together, he sort of got, but by day 2 he was nearly incapacitated, and I think that put a little wake up call in him about getting into shape if he wants to do everything that his scheming, ambitious mind wants to do. So
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll probably see him at the estuary today. But yeah, we missed. Well, at least I missed it, dude.
John is going to be in
having estuary on the night of the election. I am deeply proud of him for that. People are shutting things down today and tomorrow, and it's like
we're the brave bunch. That will be
brave.
It's funny that you guys were talking about like the whole because I was watching Jacobs and Father Stephen DeYoung's conversation about like politics and stuff like that, like the election day. But it's funny, I have like a weird relationship with politics because I kind of like after the whole Trump thing, like after his win and all that stuff, I kind of became like non-political. But then like listening to Jacob and like other people like talk about it again, I kind of became I didn't become like political again, but it's just I see like their point of view because I was just because of like this particular church that I attended, it was so overtly political that I was like just over it. So I kind of gave up on the whole thing, and then but like really seeing both perspectives from either like just the different ways that it's expressed and in different views, it kind of made me pay attention to it again and like not just ignore it because I wasn't planning on voting this year, but I was like, well, I'll just give it a shot again, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I did listen to some of the Sam Harris, Ben Shapiro debate on the Free Press. And what was so interesting is that, I mean, when Sam Harris said, I would rather vote for Mitt Romney than either of the other two people on the ballot. I thought that was saying something. Not exactly what, a lot.
I really like the continued example of Sam Harris. I think he's so important. I've talked about this in other places. Paul, you like trash TV, right? Like you love absolute trash. Yeah. Okay.
Love it.
So I love Love Is Blind. It's a Netflix show. Utter trash. But it's a dumpster fire and a Hallmark movie in every single season. And I'm there for both. But every single season, one of the dumpster fires is a guy who is completely run by his emotions, but disconnected from them, who says, well, I'm just a logical, reasonable guy. And all that means is he has no idea how emotionally driven he is. And he like will oftentimes pick the worst possible girl, and he'll just be like, wow, I didn't know that this would even work for me because I'm such a logical, reasonable guy. That to me is Sam Harris. It's just like, buddy, you're worse off than everyone else. Yeah. So that conversation was very interesting to me because I think Sam is a byword as it is said in the Old Testament.
That's a great way to frame it. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I wanna
Everyone
meet
who speaks a proverb will say one of Sam Harris.
I would want to
Sorry,
meet
John, what
someone.
was that?
I would want to meet someone who actually is like full Sam Harris advocate. You know, because I haven't met one yet. I know I probably would have met one like back in 2014 or 2010s, but not anybody today. I think would
I have a
be like,
good
oh yeah, I love
friend
Sam
who
Harris.
is. I do have a friend who is all about him, and part
And
of
I
it
and I'm
is
yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, he's my friend is very deeply pushing against certain things, right?
Right.
This guy had a very, very bad church experience, right? And so his sympathies make a lot of sense for me. I don't know to what extent it's logical because I don't know how people logically are on Harris's side, but I know how they're on his side.
Right.
Yeah, and T Grog is saying typical Christians mocking people who know more than they do. Like I don't debate him on neuroscience. Just because the guy is a neuroscientist doesn't mean that he understands other things.
T. Grog's, it's Sam Harris is a product of Hollywood. That's not incidental. Yeah, T. Grog. Yeah, it's I really, part of what's fun about, Nathan Jacobs' point is that in the internet distortion field and the YouTube distortion field, everybody imagines the big fight is between atheists and Christians, and the Nathan Jacobs is exactly right that very little of the population is like that. Way, way more people, when they give up the faith, they really dig deep on karma, reincarnation, ghosts, aliens, and it's just so funny. It's like, all right, so you're pushing them away from a religion that says love your neighbor into something that has people panic stricken. Well, first because of alien abduction and now because of elections. So, yeah, makes sense. It's so funny.
Well, I just wanted to say hi to both of you, and but I have to get back to work now. But it's good talking to you guys.
Hey,
John is going to be making an appearance on. There's a news program on Wednesday that he helped out for a bit, so his face will be on Chad's channel tomorrow.
Oh, all right. Is that coming out tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 10, I think.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye, John.
Oh, there it is.
Paul.
Yeah, I'm still
I
here.
I'm
doing stuff.
That's all right. I have a minor bone to pick with you. I think your list of the corner starter kit is very good, but the hierarchy is it's got all kinds of problems. What is going on here? I like that you made the list.
Well, I'll tell you something, and I know it's going to get me in real trouble. Jacob used to be at the top of the list, but I was afraid that someone might start at the top and not get any further. Because Jacob streams more than anyone else. And so I thought, and he started it, so I thought he should be at the top of the list because odds are good if someone wants to get on a live stream that they'll start with Jacob. And then I thought, and how's that really going to go? So I put him a little
I
lower.
think I like the idea of things pushing and pulling. So I think you should be at the here's my pick. You should be at the top of the list. I feel like you forgot about yourself. Like, how did you end up number 4 on your list that people are going
stream
to
that often?
I know, but it is informative what you're doing.
Yeah, well, that's a first draft of something that I'm sure will continue to evolve.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the reason I try not to start too much is because once you start something, you kind of should maintain it. And that's where the obligation comes and the responsibility. So that's part of the criticism of me that I haven't started enough or I haven't owned enough, because and that's why I didn't with the Discord server. These guys started and I said, go right ahead, but don't expect me to run it. And I told Rick and Joey that right from the start. They said, yeah, no problem. So I had Jacob on top, and then Jacob went off on someone, and I thought,
but that is important. Like, to me, there's like stages of it, right? Jacob is almost like the embodiment of that idea in Judaism that if you want to convert, the rabbi tells you no 3 times, right? Like he's the perfect embodiment of that idea of, but if you got through Jacob, you're sticking around.
And
right?
And the best illustration of this is he has not yet kicked you off his channel, which is just hilarious to me. And he probably won't. But that's what people struggle to figure out about Jacob.
Yeah, when he live is watching the Bible study, he often comments that I'm a heretic, which is just so nice of him. But for me, I would say, like, if I was actually going to tier it, because someone like, I'm sorry if Christian is listening. Christian Baxter is great, but he's a second tier. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean, there's a couple of us that are kind of watching and being like, oh, that's very interesting. And then wanted, like, we're the second wave of bands, if you will.
Yeah.
There's like the bands that inspire the bands.
Yeah.
So it would be like,
but Jacob doesn't really get a lot of people watching his live streams because he has alienated so many people. I mean, that's another reason I had to downrank him. And see, this is the problem with lists. And this is why I didn't want to do a list at all. But when, I really had to help this internet pastor figure out how to get going, I thought, okay, I'll do a list. But once you start doing lists, now I have to deal with, you can't have a list without a rank order, because even if you just have bullet points and not numbers, there's a rank order. And once I rank order, I've got to then in some ways dictate a hierarchy. And then I've got to deal with and you're exactly right. So Christian Baxter, he doesn't live stream much.
Right.
He mostly does randos conversations, and that's another difficult thing, is that everybody is actually contributing in different ways. And this is why, again, I mean, people want me to exile people who I won't name right now because of how we all know that will go. But even the people that self-exile in one way or another have their role to play.
Yeah.
And so the difficulty with lists and rank ordering and hierarchy is you then have to show some agency in that economy. And eventually you always have to do that. But to the degree that you can avoid it, you're probably better off. No, Jeremy, you're a perfectly lovely guy. We're not going to exile you. And Nathan Ormond is great because he's self-exiled, and other people drop off the stream when he comes in, but he does go to estuary meetings in London. And I mean, it's just once you start dealing with people, especially here's the thing. Extraordinary people are often extraordinarily difficult. And
Yeah.
if you really want to enjoy extraordinary people, and the reason when I call Jacob a monster, I know he gets all upset because I don't actually know why, because Jacob is an extraordinary person. And I love Jacob.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
But he is extraordinary, and he's prickly, and he's opinionated, and he spouts off. But to me, that's all fun. Other people just tell me, he's an a-hole. But
which one of the prophets do you want to be at a family cookout?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's just like, we have hamburgers. I don't eat meat anymore. It's just grasshoppers for me. I brought my own. Does that sound like a fun guy to have there?
Yeah, and it's a point I make about Jesus all the time. They killed the man. And if you read what he said, it's amazing he lasted 3 years. He goes in Luke 4, he goes to Nazareth and he preaches, and everybody loves the sermon. And then he says what he says, and they try to throw him off a cliff.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you're going to be triggered by people who don't necessarily like to fit in, then you're just going to miss a lot of the really cool, fun people to know in life. So even though they get mad at me and call me names, I'm totally fine with that. I deal with homeless people all the time, and I regularly have people calling me names in real life to my face. So if someone's going to call me a name on the internet and I'm going to get upset about this.
Well, and we are trying to demonstrate a better way forward in our minds. The idea that you can fight with someone and say, no, but the person I fight with is actually more my friend than the person I get along with, quote unquote. Right. And to be able to see the good in that, to have a place for, I think a lot of Protestant churches are not fully bodies because they don't know how to integrate the person that pushes against you, right? The problem, the one that says, Paul, you're going too far, kind of a thing. And that is like a corrective measure where, like, I was going to a church where this was the case, where the preacher preached a message and someone talked to him afterwards, and then he preached the opposite message the next week of like a line of theology that was directly opposed to some of the ideas that he said. Because the first week he was doing Jesus said the love of money is the root of all evil, not money. Like, don't worry. And just very much don't worry. And then someone talked to him afterwards and was just like, yeah, but some people definitely have to give everything up. And don't we love to emphasize, he said love of money, not money, because we love money? That's why we have it. So it's like, oh no, okay, you're right. So then preaches like a counter sermon.
And people, like, I love, T. Grog just said, my biggest objection to the TLC is sloppy thinking and solipsistic epistemology. And yet nobody except William Branch leaves more comments than he does. And he watches so many of the streams. And so what do we make of this? Well, rule number 1, people behave mostly for their own reasons, not because of what they're reacting to or responding to. And exactly what they're saying and doing usually comes out of more themselves than what's around them. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is actions speak louder than words. And so T. Grog loves the TLC. He can't get enough of it. He's here all the time. I have 100 times more people have followed me for 30 seconds to a month than are still here. And that's the way this stuff goes. So T. Grog is working out his own stuff, and that's cool. So We're here for him to work. Yeah, he's trying to help. We're here for him to work out his own stuff as he's trying to help, because just about every do-gooder in church that I've ever seen, they're all working out their own stuff. So, hey, if we can help them along with that, that's cool. And same's true of me. I mean, why do I do this stuff? I'm working out my own stuff. That's what my channel's about.
Right.
I don't know, Revenur. I don't know who you are, or there are maybe less than 10 accounts that I have ever blocked, usually because someone said something stupidly anti-Semitic. That you know, and it isn't because I'm a crusader against anti-Semitism. It's just internet anti-Semitism itself just always surprises me. It's like, of all the people
And you're describing
world, yeah.
The first time I encountered racism in real life, because I'm ethnically ambiguous, I had like people just assume I had a bunch of nicknames that were all racial based on what people thought that I was, but it was all in good fun to me because I didn't really experience racism. And then I encountered like a punk rocker who was a skinhead, like and used the N-word against me and meant it because he thought that I was a bit black. And I didn't know, like I wasn't even offended in the moment because I was like, what? I was so confused. I was like, still? Like there's still racism? I thought that went away. It's also like 99. So the 90s were a different time.
Yeah. So one of the homeless guys, he would always, he was bipolar, so I could set my calendar by his moods. And
Right.
And he would, what was so funny is that when he was at a certain place on the clock, because I just had a mental clock of where he'd be in terms of his mood, he was that regular. It was so funny because whenever he'd get angry with usually anybody walking down the street that annoyed him for some reason, he would throw every category of racial or ethnic or sexist slur at any one individual. Well, and it was just so funny because he went right down the whole list every time. And I just thought, all this stuff is just culture litters us with these little weapons. And so for him, he just picked up everyone and threw it at everyone. It wasn't like, okay, you're a man, so you've got to be a misogynist.
Right.
It was just hilarious. And
that was, let me tell you, when at the beginning of some of the more politically correct movement that's occurred, a lot of people were posting examples of people publicly being racist or whatever, or anti-Semitic. And what I mostly saw in those videos was images of people with having mental health crises. But it didn't matter that they were having a mental health crisis because they said the bad word. And I'm like, I don't know if this is an example of what people think it is.
Well, and to comment on the Revenor here, part of the reality is that we have hierarchies of experience with people online because the channel is so thin. So if the only thing I know, so if someone is around a lot, let's take someone like Anselman, who's around a lot. We know a fair amount about Anselman because he leaves so many comments. And so our picture of Anselman grows a bit. We know a lot more about Grim Grizz because, he's in the space in lots of different ways. But if there's like Jan God, there's a great example because, of course, there was the incident with someone with Jan God on their account. And so that then becomes your picture of that person based on a tiny little bit. And so if someone is only in this corner and they left 10 comments and one comment is clearly anti-Semitic, that's who that person becomes. And so then you block them because but if he says, well, Grimm had that, because I remember seeing that title from Grimm, but I know Grimm. And so then suddenly you can play with hot topics.
How to interpret. Yeah.
There's a whole wealth of information out there. And the truth is, people just sort of act instinctively and unfilteredly on the internet. And so if you're going to be remembered for 10 comments, and one of those 10 comments you're going to really throw something spicy out there, you're probably just going to get blocked a lot. And
what might be an interesting way of like trying to analyze our community, and I guess going back to this list that you've kind of done, it might be interesting to break it down for the kind of person that finds themselves here, right? Now, no matter what that person is like, he either has ADHD or is on the autism spectrum, right? But besides that commonality, there's going to be the people who are just like the estuary I went to, which is not too far from Owen Sound, actually. Is a CRC pastor who found you years ago on your blog, Pastor Dave. Can't remember what his last name is. Yeah. So there's CRC people that have come here. They've come here through you, right? There's people like, we'll show up, Grizz, when you show up. Grizz is like, for the people who are online, I actually really like Grizz's stuff, partially because I was super into conspiracy theories for a while, and I feel like he does a good job of representing some of that stuff. Right? There's like the Orthodox, that to me is the Grail country. That's how we get here.
Yeah. We all get here in different ways. And so he says, well, it's ignorant to pretend diagnose mental disorders through chats. That's true. But I'm not really dealing with a person when I'm dealing with a chat. I'm dealing with a pattern of chats. And part of what the internet molds us to do is tailor this interface towards what we're looking for or what we're trying to avoid. And so you can't really sort of make the argument that people are doing me wrong by how they're managing the avatars I'm putting out there into the world. Well, you're going to have a little personal distance between you and the avatar too, because that's all anybody knows of you. It's sort of like,
right.
If you meet a girl and the first thing you do is tell her she's fat, what's she going to think of you? All she knows is that you're someone who called her fat. That's it.
Well, there's another bit to this, which is I know a couple of people who are incapable of not, like, they just lie all the time. I know people who are liars. I don't know how to exactly parse this. And what's really interesting is the kind of lies that they tell still tells you a lot about them. Why are they telling this lie as opposed to another lie?
Yes.
And jokes are a great example of this too, because jokes are they're not you. You're quoting something that someone else has said.
Yep.
So it's not your opinion, but it also is, you've curated these things. You're telling me something about yourself. It's like in one of the Transformers movies, there's one of the robots only communicates through a radio. So it's all bits of songs. So it's all quotes from other people. And I actually knew an autistic kid who was like this. He would quote movies instead of saying his own feelings on things. He was I was a camp counselor, and he was one of the campers. And at one point, he didn't like being told what he had to do, and he stood on a bunk bed with his arms like this and started quoting Jesus Christ Superstar and said, because he felt I was persecuting him by telling this autistic kid he had to follow the rules. And so he asked why I had forsaken him, right? And it's like, that's not his words, but that still is revealing something about him, right?
Yes.
It's beautiful. What a beautiful moment that was.
I was thinking about this. Shoot, I was thinking about so I've been watching, there's this show. So my wife and I are watching this show about this prison break. And I got it on Paramount Plus. I think it was originally on Showtime. It's about these two guys who are going to break out of this prison in upstate New York. And they do it by basically, there's this woman who works in the prison. And at first she's basically coercing sex out of one of the inmates. And the character of this woman is so fascinating. She really, she by everything she says, she sounds like she hates her husband. And her husband is not a smart guy. Her husband really has a very low IQ. And I mean, there's nothing a lot would find in him, but he is loyal to her. And he does seem to love her. But she's sitting there having sex with inmates and can't stand her husband and all of this. And so one of the other inmates, basically, who's quite sharp, basically figures out how he's going to game her and figure out how to game her to get the stuff he needs to break out of jail. And so he's doing all of this. And then it comes to a point, there's this massive concrete wall around the prison that they're going to have to chip out. And then they figure out a way they can get out quicker. So before, he told her, well, we're going to get out in 5 years. And once we get out, me and you and the other guy that you love, the three of us are going to go down to Mexico and we're going to have a great life. And she's like, yes. And then he comes to her and says, it's not going to be 5 years. It's going to be, a couple of weeks. And she kind of pauses. And she's like, well, what about Lyle, her husband, who she's been cheating on, who she treats horribly? This poor guy is doing everything he can within his tiny little IQ to make this absolutely miserable woman happy. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly for a moment, she's like, well, I don't know if I can leave him. And I just thought, this is so completely human. We are full of all of these contradictions.
What immediately jumped in my brain is in the movie The Whole Nine Yards, Bruce Willis is a hitman, and there's this group of mobsters that are trying to find him, and one of their bargaining chips is they have his wife. Now, the reason why they have his wife is because he wants to kill his wife, because he doesn't believe in divorce. So the only way he can be free from his marriage is by killing her. Because I had this conversation with my mom the first Christmas after COVID. We go down, Windsor is where my family is. So we go down, and the family is kind of split. Half of us are staying with one group, half is staying with the other. And we have two bathrooms in my parents' house. And we're all eating and unwrapping presents unmasked in one room. But my mom says to me, okay, the one house gets this bathroom, the other house uses that bathroom because of COVID, she said. And I did not fight my mom at all, because everyone during COVID drew an arbitrary line. The line was arbitrary and everyone drew it somewhere else. And it was always interesting to me what that arbitrary line was. As Pajot would say, there's a chaos border. It's not an actual border. It's preposterous and ridiculous and makes no sense. So I said, if my mom told me when I came home that holiday that she wanted me to knock twice before I opened the door because of COVID, I would have knocked twice for COVID. I don't know what it means. I don't care. And I was able to get so many people to talk to me honestly about how they were feeling by saying, however you feel about this makes sense to me. And I would use this example, and then people would kind of sigh, and then they tell me their ridiculous line. They were like, and they knew it was ridiculous. I just want to tell someone.
It's true. And again, I mean, part of what I love about church is you see all this stuff in church, even in a small church. I guess partly in small spaces. If the space is big enough, then you just sort of see these statistical realities playing out.
Yeah.
Because the larger the sample, the bigger the breakout. I was listening to, so I discovered that Ayaan Hirsi Ali has her own podcast, and she had the woman who is Russian, and then she immigrated to the States. She's really sharp and she's really interesting to listen to. She had her on, and she was making a similar point. She says, in a society, basically the point Peterson made, in a society where you really start to even out the distributions over like sex and race, then you start being able to see other distributions. And so in a small church where you really get to know people, you get to see these peculiarities, which then informs your view of human nature. And that example you just gave right now about COVID is a great one, because, and you see it today, you see people who are, now if you see a random person wearing a mask, you don't know why they're wearing a mask. You really don't, because out in California, because of the percentage of Asians around here, we had masks before. Asians would often wear a mask if they had a cold or something like that, or they'd mask up their kids on airplanes, and that was all before COVID. But your illustration is just tremendous, because that's exactly how people are, and they are that way for all sorts of reasons, including politics. It's fascinating if you listen to someone. So why do you vote the way you do? And then you listen to their reasons. And it's like, wow.
One of my favorite things is what people say in passing. So they're not trying to make this point. They're trying to talk about something else, and they just say something in passing. It's like a poker tell, right?
Yeah.
And I had a friend who he would do that all the time, and he would become upset with me because he's like, I just said that in passing. And I said, no, we're not talking about this thing you want to talk about. Because it's like a lot of people who've been through some very traumatic things say things from their past that were completely normal to them as a joke that they think other people are going to laugh at. And it's like, no, now we have to talk about this for a while, right? Like, it's just like, but I was saying it to be funny. It's like, that's even worse, actually. That's
Well, it's the whole point behind the Freudian slip. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about here. That people will, if you give people, and this is from someone who has literally thousands of hours of talking candidly on the internet. I'm probably the greatest offender. But I also suspect that this is, I mean, the point you just made of what we do is excellent. But I think the opposite point, which is we are also, I might not even think about the fact that we are revealing ourselves by the jokes we make and the actions that we do in a way that we are not conscious of. We are probably also receiving all of those signals in ways we are not conscious of. And that then is shaping whether we like or don't like people. And, and to me, again, what's so weird is that some of the most disagreeable people in the corner, I really enjoy. I mean, and some of these people have said the most unkind things to me you can imagine, but I still go back and listen more, partly because I don't know, I like something about that. Now, what does that say about me? So who knows? Yeah. But I do find it very, very interesting. And so then here in this space, we are doing these things, and we're doing it in 2 dimensions. Mm-hmm. Now we have visual and sound. If it were just sound, it would be different, but I don't know. The whole thing is just crazy, crazy. Oh, here's Sherry.
Hey.
I'm glad I have so many Canadian friends, so I have a place to go when the Civil War starts.
Yeah, I just thought I'd just jump on. I'm actually going to go do some chores, but if anybody wants to jump in on this conversation, I'll post a link and then I can add people.
Yeah, because we actually couldn't let people come on.
I know. That's what I was noticing.
But it was fine. I still feel like we had a good conversation.
It sounds like it.
I wonder about this, Paul, I'm making a metaphor in my mind right now that there's levels of purity for theological reasons where there's a certain amount, like not everyone can become a monk, and even the monk has to draw a line somewhere. It's like the amount of fasting you do before you die. Right? Like this is the line. And it is whatever that line is for you is arbitrary. It has to be. And we all want to pretend like we're completely logical and reasonable. That's why you're Christian Reform and Sherry's Orthodox, and I'm this weird messianic thing. It's entirely for logical reasons and all this other stuff.
Well, I don't know if it's arbitrary, but I don't know if it's knowable.
Right.
And this is part of where, I mean, because one would imagine that perennialism would just run the table on everything because there's no filters. But right. I don't know that anyone can actually be a complete perennialist because there always has to be particularity, because you can't live without particularity, because we are particularity, which is why perennialism and confessionalism are always sort of there holding each other in the world, and neither side just sort of spins out. And I don't know that the connections are arbitrary, but they are unfathomable.
Yeah.
Perennialism running the table. What the F does that mean? So it was, I told the story on Voices where one of my favorites comes into Estuary, and he's just so happy that everyone is accepted in Estuary. You can be gay, you can be any race, you can be any religion. It doesn't matter. There's no filter. Anyone can come into Estuary, and
you can even be Jacob.
Tell a story that probably completely divided the room between the Christians and the non-Christians in that room. And did it just, he didn't know he was doing it, but he did it. And I just thought, because all are welcome, but even if someone says with absolute sincerity, all are welcome, not everyone is going to feel welcome. It's because particularities are always there. So that's what I mean, Grizz.
I'm gonna leave this running, but if anybody wants to jump in the next couple seconds, please do, and I can add you, and then I'll be doing my chores.
Well, Paul, thank you very much, Sherry. Paul, going back to what you were saying though, in some situations I want to have a personal conversation with my wife. And I want the 3 and not the 12. right? Like the
Yep.
I want the 3 and not the 12. And for that reason, there's people, a lot of the trans debate is actually, if everyone is included, I feel uncomfortable. There's women that feel that way, right?
Yep.
If the definition of woman is this big, I feel comfortable. If it's this big, I don't, right? Like how much openness before you say, then this is not safe for me, right? And like I was, my wife used to work for an organization that was a youth drop-in, and this guy who was formerly their accountant charges by his children that there was untoward things that occurred. No, but nothing formally. And he showed up to a Christmas fundraiser that was open, quote unquote, open to the public. And I was talking to a couple of people who said, well, he shouldn't be here, but I like, what are we supposed? And they were just like, well, what are we supposed to do? And they just threw their hands up. And I said, no, I'll talk to him. And I didn't even tell him you have to leave. I was just like, you got to know that this is a bad idea to show up to a youth event when you have these kind of accusations going on. Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
Okay, I'll quiet it.
Grizz is making a point. Let's hear from Kezi or Mark or Chad.
Yep, my work is done here. I'm going to listen offline.
Awesome.
Hi, Paul.
I've got to make a phone call, but God bless. Happy election day. Keep it peaceful and fun. And I just was catching up and saw all the activity and hope everybody has a good day. Okay. Did that get through?
Yeah,
Got you.
Testing. All right. God bless everybody. See you later.
David, first off, everyone's having a great day. But when we say open for all, right, or all are welcome, welcome to where? Right? Like, not all are welcome to the kids' gymboree, but the TLC sort of needs to be, if you're going to say they're all welcome, you sort of need to define where they're being welcome to. And then the line all are welcome will start making more sense, because in a space like this, all are welcome, you're welcome to a brave space. In a brave space, that's not a place where you're necessarily going to be hugged by everyone. That doesn't mean you're not welcome.
I'd like a couple of hugs if that's not too much to ask.
But you understand what I'm saying with regards to.
I only give you one.
What are people? What are people anticipating? And I mean, there's also a sense where one has to have the flexibility and freedom to, I don't want to say troll, but poke and probe, because that's the only way.
You can say troll. Say troll.
Sure, troll. But it's sort of a loving troll, which is I need to. It's also because it's a dynamic where I'm not seeing you at all times, right? I'm using the other tools at my disposal to try to map who I'm talking to, how they're going to react to certain things. It's also a space where the assumption is everyone's acting in good faith, and that's why there's a level of ideas in a good faith place.
Is he dropping out, or is that me?
No,
You came in a little bit robotic.
It was fine. Got most of it.
I just want making sure that my connection's okay. That's all.
Your connection's patchy, Chad.
Oh yeah. Well, I had Last night I felt uncomfortable about an interaction that I had on a channel with Clara a couple days ago, and so I gave her a call last night on my way home because I wanted to patch that relationship because and I didn't think it was broken or anything. I just wanted to be able to make sure that she understood that you know I value our friendship, if there in fact is a friendship, which she also agreed that there was, and so it was. I think it's good to do that sort of thing too, you know. Excuse me.
Tayo, what did you come on to say?
I just came on because I've got admin privileges and Sherry was going away, so I came on to let people on if they wanted to come on the stream.
Awesome.
Kyle, are you gonna give us a news report for the third episode for the Christmas episode? We're gonna need some European reporting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
How else will we know about Father Christmas?
Right.
Wait, you guys don't have Father Christmas?
We don't have Father Christmas. We got Santa Claus. That's all we got. There's no one in a green coat with a wreath on their head over here.
What's Father Christmas?
Okay, Grizz is telling us we got.
Yeah.
I'm getting out of here.
Okay, Chad, do you know what? You, okay, never mind. I'll tell you.
Wait, ask me. Tell me what.
Yeah. In A Christmas Carol, you know the Ghost of Christmas Present. It's like he's got a big red beard, a giant green coat, and wears like a Christmas wreath on his head. That's Father Christmas. That's Father Christmas looks like that.
I never heard of her.
Yeah, he gets mixed with Santa Claus. Anyway, that's okay. That's all. Grizz, we'll see you on your side. Goodbye.
Wait, I have a question. What's the feminine archetype of Christmas?
So they're in
secular Christmas.
In Italy, they have La Befana, which is a ghost. Not a ghost, a witch, a Christmas witch. Who the what's its name? The wise men bump into her. They're lost. Okay. I'm sorry. You guys have to learn about the Christmas witch yourself. I'm leaving now. I obey the general. I'm gonna
why are you leaving? I think you're misunderstanding the general. He's saying we have to keep this going for another hour because he's still prepping for his show, which starts in an hour.
Oh, I can't go on about La Befana for an hour.
Well, you don't have to. I clicked on and then joined the stream, so I missed most of the context of what you guys were talking about, but it sounded like you were describing estuary, safe space, brave space, that sort of am I on the track or am I?
We talked. Look, a lot of things were discussed, as they always are. But now I have to get on with my day as well. So I'm going to go. But, I'm going to go. Even though, Tayo, I want to talk to you.
Yes, I do want to talk to you as well. But before you do, are you still doing the Shakespeare spin-off?
Yes, because I'm in the middle of my play. I've been way too busy. So it might be next week or the week after where we'll do specifically Macbeth. I think... because I saw something recently, I'm going to bring in the movie The Northman. Have you seen The Northman?
I don't think I saw it, but I remember when it came out, seeing the trailer or something.
There's nothing I could... Like, it's almost like an artistic representation of the idea that I have, which is, like, I was taught Shakespeare Shakespeare from a very Christian perspective. And the Northman is a pagan version of the story of Hamlet. And very few things could illustrate more the difference that Christianity had to the Netherlands. Yeah. Hamlet and the Norsemen. But I'm going to bring it up as an example when I talk about Macbeth, because I want to talk about Macbeth as a Christian play. And I think that when you compare what a non-Christian work is, it's going to do all kinds of stuff.
Cassandra's got a request. How do you make this happen?
Okay, so they are recording the play at some point. So if the audio is not absolute trash, we might actually have a viewing party. Paul, did you come back because I mentioned the Northman? Did you watch it?
I did, because I thought that was a great point that you made, and I really want to see a fuller treatment of that point. So,
yeah, that's Dominion in action, is just watching that and compare it to how boring Hamlet is. The drama of Hamlet is just people having conversations. That's what, right? And it's a tragedy that the hero dies at the end of Hamlet, right? It's one of it, and he dies, and it's sad, and you're supposed to, oh no, that's horrible. End of the Northman, him dying in battle is marvelous. It's wonderful that he died in battle, and he gets taken off to heaven by a Valkyrie because he dies in battle, and it's not a waste. It's nothing. It's, yeah.
Hey, Paul, quick question. Are you doing this? Are you moderating this? Because I could leave then if you're doing this.
I don't have credentials to moderate Grail Country.
Oh, you can't let people in?
No, and I have to open the church for the coffee break Bible.
Okay,
I say coffee break, ladies, and then people jump on me. Are you asking them to make sandwiches too? No, coffee break is the name of the Christian Farm program for women's Bible study instead of Bible study fellowship. So every time I say coffee break, ladies, I get jumped on by certain people who are.
Oh, Teo's modding. Okay, perfect.
Teo's here.
So I'm so confused because I'm sitting here going, who's doing the comments?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm out of here then. Oh, there's
okay.
Matt.
Bye, Sherry.
Okay, Teo, you do it.
Sherry. I just jumped on before because I wanted more people needed to carry the stream, and then it was full. So it's like, okay, I can go take my shower and take care of the dog and go to church and open the gate. But then I got caught by the Norseman, and I had to jump back in. But Matt will be here and carry the conversation for us.
Yeah,
right,
But you liked the Northman? I just want to check before you go.
I haven't seen it, but I really like the point that you made, and I want to know more about it because this question about Christian civilization is all about this.
Yeah.
Because Jesus smuggles in ways that are, below the waterline, like we were talking about before, like the ways that we disclose when we don't intend to disclose, and
what you find interesting and what you find beautiful. So what is a tragedy versus what is a successful hero?
Yep.
So the Northman, he's a hero. He's not a tragic figure.
Yep. And this stuff is so when we try to have this conversation about Christian civilization, this is where a lot of this stuff is, because what makes a civilization Christian? What is Christ? How does this work? These are all the questions that, of course, just captivate me.
Is the cross a tragedy? Is the cross a tragedy?
Right.
Or is it triumphant?
Right. And when was it a tragedy? And I mean, because if Tom Holland is right that it's not until really about the 4th century that Christians start, displaying the cross and using it as something that isn't tragic, then what does that say about thread and narrative stability in terms of Christianity? Or is Christianity this weird thing that seems to keep taking different embodiments and shapes throughout history, but yet, these questions, these questions are the questions that fascinate me.
And you know the first depiction that we have of someone being crucified, possibly of Jesus.
Yeah,
it's a bit of graffiti that depicts Jesus as a jackass on a cross.
Oh, I didn't know that one. Oh,
that's the earliest depiction of crucifixion is a donkey-headed man on a cross mocking, saying whatever the guy who's being mocked, let's say it's Paul Vanderklay, Paul worshiping his God.
Oh,
the
yes,
picture
that
of his
one. Yeah,
God
I've heard
is,
that one. Yep. Yep. You're right. Yep.
Okay, go make coffee.
All right. Coffee. No, I don't drink coffee, but I got to take a shower.
I said make. Don't you have to? Oh, yeah, coffee hour. Matt, how are you?
Hey, doing well. I feel like the Kingsnorth conversation is still getting started. I don't think this quarter has adequately explored the contours of it. You know, I think like something. I'm sure Paul is listening. I would wonder, what would Tim Keller say if someone had a lecture about how the kingdom of God is in a antagonistic relationship with the polis, with the city? I think he'd have some more dimensionality to put on that than Kingsnorth has. As much as I like Kingsnorth, he's a very smart, very thoughtful guy.
Yeah.
He hasn't been a Christian for long enough for him to be in a leadership position in most of our historic church. So it's like, I don't know. He might not be eligible to be a deacon, but he could have this much of a international sway on these crucial Christian topics,
right?
You know, and he leads the content and we comment on it. It's wild.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just trying to stir it up a little bit because I think we have this hierarchy of influencers, and it's interesting that most of them, Paul and Jonathan Pajot excluded, of course, and Matthew, most of them have been Christian for a very short, brief amount of time. That's the leadership. That the people who've been Christian longer follow and nod their heads. I think that's fascinating. I think it's an incredible side of our particular Western culture that we do that. What do you think?
No, Tayo left, and he was the one with the superpowers. I just wanted you all to know that you're experiencing a very special event here with this appearance of Matt Crotch, because he made this book, Kyrie.
Oh my gosh, Grum.
Of which I have Robbers and the House of 100 Gates. Robbers, and then look, if it's the only version that has I've been cartooned. That's what I look like as a cartoon. And he's a professional cartoonist man that did it, and he's above me as soon as they switch the frames back.
So, the only sense in which I'm ever above you,
This is essentially a holy artifact, or will be in like 20 years, and you're present with the creator of it. Rejoice.
I didn't know you've made your own comic?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's how I got in the Pajot gang of coloring his stuff, is he enjoyed my weird, bizarre, autistic expressions in the comic book world.
What the hell? I didn't know this about you at all. I just thought you were just a random guy over here.
I just wanted to be a poster. I told Grimm that, as well as his FBI handler. I didn't want to be known for anything other than that. May it forever be that way.
Handlers.
Yeah. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if you're unfamiliar, I am General Griswold, Gaius Grimm of the First LARP Ingression Protocol. That is Matt Crotch. That's Furry David Busatil.
Extra
and
furry.
Sandy Bassey, who's got a big green thing behind. Nice. Did you paint that, Sandy? That's pretty.
It's lovely.
Oh yeah.
Wow, it's a tall one.
Yeah.
That's a painting you've made.
Gorgeous.
Wow. Well,
What are
the
your thoughts,
artist,
Sandy?
Sandy Massey, welcome. How are you doing this election day for the U.S.?
Not thinking about it. I have bigger fish to fry.
Love that.
Oh, of course, Matt Kratz is here.
Sandy is one of two people in the corner who have seen my play already. Sandy came out on Saturday night with her son.
Your play.
You're a playwright, and you perform plays.
I am both of those things, but I didn't write this play. I wrote a completely different play. But I'm right now in I'm right now in The Importance of Being Earnest.
Who'd you play? Who'd you play in the play that we're talking about?
I'm the lead, so Jack/Ernest, because I lie about my name.
Jack Ernest.
That's a wonderful play.
Yeah.
Or Ernest Jack. Ernest Jack. Okay, so this Ernest Jack fella, give us you got like a monologue, a line or two that you've clearly rehearsed and memorized that you could.
Tayo's still in the background.
Give us a taste of Ernest Jack.
Well, we're going to definitely put it.
I know we're going to see the whole play, but like we're live here. We've seen her painting. We've shown you his comic book.
That's a good point.
Yeah, can we get the play reviewed live on the stream?
No, I want to taste it
just
live.
like tear it apart.
I want him to manifest the character so we can see.
Yeah.
Okay,
I did
I have
ask
to
him to come talk to me about his play and being in it and what his thoughts were, but he's busy chatting to people here.
Yeah, it's true.
Come on.
I saw the play like 15 years ago. And
He's on.
I'm trying. See, this is a problem. Is you do a play in a full context, and now I'm just supposed to do any random bit from it. I'm trying to.
Well, give me a line. Give me the starter line if you need it.
Phlebas, don't complain about Oscar Wilde. I'm thinking of going back on Friday. Just come.
Oh, that'd be excellent, Sandy. I want you there. This was a very bizarre experience for me. What has just happened, because I have the play in its entirety, not in its parts, and it was the most like a dream, that experience.
There's this one part where somebody says to your character what, and then you say, give me a feeder line. I'll feed you the line.
Okay, here, you know what? We can pull up the script, and you can be the Grim. Will you be the lady?
Let's go back and forth.
Oh no, you wouldn't be.
See, as soon as you start to get involved with the entertainment and the Baal worship, they try to transgender you. They're like, "Will you be a lady?" No, that's enough.
Asked him to say lines from a play where he's explaining the joy of lying to people.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very good point.
So there's probably a snippet.
There's nothing improbable about the matter. In fact, it's
wait. Tayo, ready, set, 1, 2, go.
There's nothing extraordinary about the matter. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me as a young boy, made me in his will the guardian of his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle for motives of respect that you could not possibly appreciate, lives in my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism. That's and then
expositionary, sir. Quite expositionary.
Yeah. Most of the things that go on are just exposition.
I love that her name is Miss Prism.
Miss Prism. That's the teacher.
We have to talk about it.
Well, now that the stage is set and the characters have been introduced, I'm going to go get ready for my stream.
Do it.
I'll do some Gwendolyn. Would that help? Would you want to do another?
There you go.
You want to do a bit from that? Okay. All right. Okay, just go Project Gutenberg.
Okay.
So this is the one bit. Are we really doing this right now?
Maybe this is the last. We'll just give it one more shot, so you're not too horribly embarrassed. Well, this is a lot of fun. I think people in chat are enjoying it.
Okay, can you? Okay, do you have this? You have the script?
I do.
Just go
From
Project Gutenberg. Search the word passionately.
That's where I was.
Okay, excellent. So my character is lying about his name being Ernest, okay? So you would go, so I will start with you really love me, Gwendolyn, okay? Okay. You really love me, Gwendolyn.
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Ernest.
But you don't really mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name weren't Ernest.
But your name is Ernest.
Yes, I know it is, but suppose it was something else. Do you mean to say you couldn't love me then?
Ah, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
That's good. Let's just leave it there. I'm gonna.
That was too fun.
Y'all have to come out and see this play because, as well as that was done, it misses all of the actual important lines of the play, which are visual and tactile. I sat in the third row. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent play.
Facial expressions, space, distance,
proximity, yeah.
Hands play a humongous role in this play.
Yeah, yes, everyone does in fact have hands. Wait, what? I can actually, if I can share, I can show people what the set looks like because it does look.
Oh yeah.
David,
did you guys go historical or?
I want a picture of the set, and they were very strict. No cell phone camera usage in the theater things. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah, it's from. There's going to be ridiculous pictures of me in costume. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry, they were setting up beforehand, so it's one of the scenes. This is me in a 3-piece suit.
That's great.
I got to see if I can find the garden because this is just a living room. But like, if you watch the show, these walls turn around and become a garden, and this wall takes off like it's actually flies up into the air. It's called the fly system.
Is all movement and motion.
Yes. Let's find some ridiculous there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Can't believe I read lines with somebody that is in this performance, this particular production. This is a gloss. This is nice production.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just the first. I got to find the garden scene because there's like little bits where we had someone who was very professional who sets things up. This is the actual Gwendolyn as opposed. This is the scene we were just doing.
Lovely.
I got to find the garden because the garden is absolutely gorgeous.
What have you learned about waxing your mustache? Or has that just been handled by you or by makeup?
So my way of dealing with these sort of things is the way that I deal with them. And that's by using you can see some of the garden. I use hair glue, like gotta be glue. Everything I learned about doing my hair, I learned about in punk rock in 2001.
It's great. Chad's got a great comment. Could you imagine one of the 24-hour streams we just do plays or something?
So I've written a piece that's meta modern. I wrote it like 6 years ago now. And I want to do a stream with people reading different roles. I don't know when, and I don't know who.
It's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's meta modern, all that good stuff.
Yeah, let's perform your play. Yeah, that would be so fun.
I've done Rita plays. It's mostly a comedy. So we could even, I don't know. Like one of my dreams is I'm going to go to the what's it called? The conference in Chicago. I'm hoping to be there. So maybe we could do a read a play there.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
That would be fabulous.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Big Mo, that's a good point. We have so many character actors, that you hire for that one. Like that's the role they do. I think you're more than that. I think you're more than just a character actor.
It's kind of it would be very difficult to cast my show because there's a fool, like a shit disturber, trollish kind of character. It would be very difficult to pick who would be my favorite to play that part.
Because there's so many.
The one.
So many to choose from.
Exactly.
Yep.
Who gets to play that character? Okay, I actually do have to get running. So, au revoir. But,
all right.
Yeah, Sandy, I'll possibly see you again very soon.
I'm gonna look
That's
into
great.
it. See what time I open
Awesome.
on Saturday.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing. So inspiring.
Thank you for being so encouraging. So I'm gonna get going.
How are you, Matt? What you up to?
Yeah, doing well. Just coloring some Pajot pages. We got to a dream sequence, so like a vision sequence. And
Okay, so what are these Pajot? This is the first I have heard of this.
Oh my goodness!
And I like listening to things about dream sequences. I have the most incredible dreams.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah, I strive to live up to them with my coloring efforts. What he's got his third comic that's coming out. He's putting it out in segments, like 40 pages at a time. And I'm coloring the line work, which is finished. And, it's all about that God's dog, like outsider, what's their role in the periphery versus the center.
Do I need to buy God's dog?
I think it's quite good. I really think it's every video every passionate topic you've ever seen him explored, but put to a fictional narrative, which I think is more compelling than just a lecture.
Do I need to buy your comic book?
Yes, you do.
Well, it's funny. It's me exploring the same topic, but not as strikingly as his. He just goes so bold. He puts a dog head on a person's body. It's a little more. It's a punch in the face when you do it that way.
Texturing.
It's kind of it's passed between me and the inker, who has a lot of opinions. He has a right to have those opinions because he's very talented. But
oh, very diplomatic.
Yeah, I have like a weekly struggle session with him where he tells me all the stuff I'm doing wrong. But I think you guys are gonna like it. It's nice. I feel like dreams and textures go well together. If you go super clean with a dream sequence, it just doesn't slap. I think you got to be rough. I think you got to have weird surprises in the painterliness, otherwise it's not, like Sandy's paintings. It's got to have a.
I would love to be able to repeat that. That was done during school when I was supposed to be learning how to integrate the foreground and background.
I do want to say hi to Caviar Cowboys, who I've not seen before.
Yeah, hey, buddy.
Have you been on stream before? Is this your first time?
Yeah, I've been here a couple times before.
Bro, you've got music playing.
Huh?
You said you've been there a couple times before?
Yeah.
And that here being on the stream or just in the chat somewhere?
On the stream.
Nice to have you. Matt, PBK would like to know, where can we buy Kyrie?
Check out my profile on X. I'll hook you up, Paul. I hook up anyone in TLC, so shoot me a message if you want. Yeah, what are your thoughts, Caviar? Are we hitting good notes, or are they all duds?
We need to have more intelligent conversation.
Yeah.
That's like always a right answer.
Yeah. Do you have any handholds for us to climb up to a more intelligent precipice?
Not really. I normally just talk about sex and drugs and weapons and joining the military.
Yeah.
What kind of more intelligent conversation would you like then?
You know, like how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the feedback coming from? Okay. Clara, you can come in and ask your questions, but I too would like to know more about Caviar Cowboys. Where did you grow up?
Sydney.
And are you still there?
No, I'm in Darwin,
Nice.
like right at the top of Australia.
Super tropical there, right? The
Yeah,
Great
it's the
Barrier
wet
Reef and all
season.
that.
It's the wet season right now. It rains almost every day.
Hmm.
So you and Ty were both kind of in grey screen. England and Australia in agreement over the rain.
Yeah, that's certainly true for England. Can confirm. I do want to know when Grim Grey starts his stream because we had our orders to last an hour. But before we end the stream, I think Clara, yep,
Hey,
she's got some
Hello,
questions.
Clara.
Oh, I don't want to take over the stream. I hadn't gotten a chance to meet Mr. Cowboy there. Oh, am I full screen now? I've lost everything.
That was just me making you take over the stream.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, that was funny. Can I jump in? I mean, I feel like I have to jump in now that I'm here. Mr. Caviar Cowboys? We haven't yet had the pleasure, but I've just seen you all over these streams, and I was really interested to get to know more about you.
I'm a simple man with simple beliefs.
Beliefs even. Wow.
how'd you find us? That's a Chad question from the chat.
It just popped up on my YouTube my YouTube feed one day.
Nice.
There was a couple of other live streams too, like House of the Bad Influence and stuff.
What brings you back again?
Clara, you went quiet for a little bit. What did you say?
Oh, I was just wondering why Caviar Cowboys has returned, because I've seen him like multiple times, and I just didn't know why come back. But
Yeah, what brings you back? What brings you showing up after your initial encounter?
Oh, okay. It's become troll Clara time. Okay.
Clara, you may be sitting on your mic right now. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
There you go. Much better.
my computer was on a pillow, and I definitely see how that could have caused that problem.
Nice.
Okay, I'm off the stream now, but
Hold on, Clara. Before you go, I too have some questions. How's it going with your TLC search, and what are you? It seems you're moving from. You've seen enough channels now to have a sense, not the sense, but a sense of what's going on here, and what's that sense?
oh, like the whole thesis of my whole thing.
No, just the soundtrack of it.
Soundtrack. Okay. Well, I've just really I've enjoyed, first of all, meeting lots of different people. Getting the vibe for what's normal. Very interested that Caviar Cowboys was on this morning because I really would like to talk to him. Because he has been on repeatedly. How interesting is that? And then things are kind of I'm really interested too. And okay, so we got this real world stuff going on, in real life. For a lot of the folks in the United States right now. So it's that's ratcheting up what we might call emotional energy. But we don't want a sociology lecture right now. But it's interesting, how is that? I was really interested that people were getting on today and talking. I don't know, Teo, what's going on with you? And Sandy and Matt, really nice to see you.
Not much is going on with me. I'm just curious about your TLC experience, because I still find you you've got very much a Fed vibe, which means you're asking a lot of questions, and I'm like, okay, is there anything that you've learned from all these questions you're asking and all these people you've spoken to, and are you finding this worthwhile? And also, are you finding yourself playing along, or do you still find yourself in the role of observer? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this really tricky kind of ground I've been trying to walk here, where I'm doing my method is what's called participant observation, and so yes, I am a fad. Ron told me quite publicly to say that if anyone asked me if I was a fad, just say yes.
Listen, if you're gonna have a Fed handler, wouldn't you like it to be Clara? I mean, if you had to choose.
He's making a good point there, Matt. I do appreciate that. I appreciate everybody's patience with me here, as I have asked a ton of questions and butted into a ton of live streams and whatever, and learned how to live stream, and at the same time taking my time here, Teo, taking my time with any conclusions.
Okay, fair enough.
That's okay. Take your time. Hop in. We're studying you too.
I have a question for you, Clara. Do you think, because there's probably no limit to the number of little micro communities that are online, including ones that have Discords and YouTube live stream presences, and they all have their memes and their in-group language and emotional connections across countries and continents. But is there anything that they all think they're special, in other words? But is there anything about, are you studying this just because it's do you find that this corner is what's the term, statistically, are we in the norm, so it's good to just pick from that because you could say something broader about online communities? Or are you studying it and finding that it's more that this is not the norm and that's why it's worth studying?
See, I think it really sort of depends on the question you're asking, because there's a lot about this little corner of the internet and the Peterson sphere that's very normal, that I would think we would expect for any community in person or online. And yet there are some surprises that I think really tell us a lot that is special about TLC. And I think it's also really important right now to study TLC. I'll give you my official sociology answer, is because I think it tells us about something about what's called liminals. There's 20% of Americans, and I mean this is something that happens in other countries too. But the data that's in my head here is 20% of Americans are sometimes religious and sometimes not. And so those people are called liminals, or liminally religious, or liminal nuns. And I feel like TLC is really doing something where we can see what's happening with these liminal nuns, as we're talking about making meaning, as we're talking about meaning crises. We have this wonderful group to draw from, people who are sort of have been through many different types of identity change. And you might not think of it as identity. That's okay too.
That's fascinating. It sounds like you're saying that TLC, there's a lot of online communities that capture and harvest and nurture those kind of liminal categories, but maybe TLC is self-awarely doing that. Is that fair? Is that
Well,
kind of what you're getting at?
TLC seems like a place where there's certain things going on where you don't necessarily have to at any particular time be any particular thing. I think that's kind of what people mean. And I know there was a conversation, I didn't quite hear out the whole conversation that Hezi was having about, well, what does it mean that everybody's welcome? I think part of that, whether it's true or not, that's up to y'all, right? But part of that is what I was just saying, that you don't have to be any one particular thing at any particular moment of time. There's this freedom here, I think, to change, if that makes sense. That might just be what a Fed would say, and maybe I'm just saying what a Fed would say.
That's what a sociologist would say.
Oh, okay. Usually I'm the one asking the questions, so.
Yeah, that's true. Usually you are, Clara, which is why I felt it was appropriate that some questions get asked of you. It wasn't out of, I hope it don't come off as an attack, more so curiosity of what are you.
See, that's exemplar TLC right there. That's what it is, Teo. You've mastered it. There's a lot going on in the micro dynamic there. The way that you phrase it, the way that you're talking about it. See, this is boring to hear me talk about it. But
it's not.
That mode of interaction.
It's actually really neat and refreshing to be professionally evaluated.
Professionally, sociologist training. I should add like an in training badge to my. Mark, who is welcome.
Is it high in openness? Like we always have these. We have so many categories that we picked up and dropped on how to describe what this quarter is trying to do. Is it high in openness? Do you think? Is it high in high sociability, I guess, but not openness, maybe, because we're always, I don't know. There's many ways to get at it. I was just wondering, do you have a paradigm that you like to, that you think is clarifying for this?
Clarifying. When people use those words about like openness and those are the personality words, what I'm hearing is that the traits that you're talking about are things that are very specific to individuals, and a lot of people think that those traits are very like sort of permanent traits of individuals. And what I think is interesting about TLC and what I wonder is happening here is that maybe there's something about the space itself that's allowing all sorts of people, whatever their traits are, whatever their big five are, to sort of model and learn these skills. Could we think of them as skills? Maybe it's something about the space. It's sort of the direction I'm going in. And I am not qualified to do that kind of evaluation. I want everyone to know I am not a therapist. I have no training in psychology. I'm not even obligated to say that. I'm just going to say it. Mostly I just ask people about their favorite flavor of ice cream.
It seems to be, seems to a lot of us that online communities emerge because of some sort of reactive element, I guess, in the center of culture, like that pushes people to the, or abandons people to the liminal, or there's some kind of movement. There's a catalyzing force, and then people learn to accommodate this reality by plugging in some way, you know. And I think a lot of folks here have tried to figure out what's peculiar about that particular movement, and this being a reaction. And I think it could have something to do with having a high emotional IQ or something. Like that's what attracts people to this space in particular. That might be another way to qualify it. Where people they feel that either the center points of online culture or the center points of pop culture, or even in their own families and communities, that things have been reduced and intellectualized in ways that don't feel warm or friendly, don't ask open-minded questions or open-ended questions, and aren't willing to explore, like Hezi has brought up, don't feel brave. That's like my sense of it, is that no matter what people are believing, they want to have open-ended questions again, and feel that they trust and admire the sort of people that they're having those explorations with. And a lot of these people have high emotional intelligence, it seems. But then they don't necessarily have high agreeableness or high open to, they might disagree a lot, but they're just trying to connect on that emotional paradigm, which is interesting. And that doesn't seem like that's just generally not the case. It seems like a lot of other communities, they're just connecting on politics or a pop culture micro fandom or something,
Yeah. It's interesting how much value you're placing here, and this is interesting on the emotional, sort of the emotional, like how much people are. Yeah, that's EQ. I'm seeing in the chat here. I wonder, I wonder, like, that could be part of the story, but also, there's people who don't fit that, and how do they fit into the space, and what do they get out of it, and why do they come?
Yeah.
Sort of question, to keep asking, not one that I think necessarily has an immediate answer.
I know the people like Tayo and Sandy who do have high EQs they seem to get very excited about those particular people, to try to lean into and pour into them.
Yeah.
Be generous with them. And maybe you don't need to have a high IQ to appreciate that. So.
Yeah. That's true. If it's just like lacking in other areas or whatever.
I definitely don't have an IQ because I don't understand what you just said about Edmund mentioned.
Emotional.
That's not necessarily lack of IQ, Tayo. I'm having trouble tracking them because I'm too busy thinking of 45 other things at the same time. You just could have an active mind, and plus sides, you're doing all the behind the screen stuff, and you are intelligent. How does what Matt's talking to you about with the you grabbed onto the term openness or open-ended conversations, things about being open. When I made a quick note, does that relate directly to what you're talking about in the emotional realm? And if so, how do you justify saying that it does in the positive frame in which you're discussing it? Because it would seem to me that high emotional IQ could also lead towards negative outcome as well as positive. And I'm curious how you differentiate those.
Sorry. You're asking me a question, and you're asking me, how does emotion, like openness, lead to like positive outcomes, by which you mean like good or enjoyable, positive?
Well, I'm making an assumption. Let's see. I wrote down something about Matt, I think, said, talking about high openness, a paradigm of something, and clarifying. You guys laughed about your name being involved in the comment there, and Matt mentioned traits. So what are the traits of high openness then, or you did? And then you went off talking about what you've just been talking about. And I'm watching a lot of positive reaction to this. Does the positive reaction mean that this is being taken as solely positive? Or are there also negative traits and outcomes that are being tracked or could be being tracked? Like, is openness just a positive thing, or?
With this question about like positive or negative, what comes to mind for me is like there's this saying, and I forget who said it. Like in nature, there are neither rewards nor punishment, only consequences. And so I guess like to think about it as positive or negative for me, it's just not even like sort of how I've been thinking about it. Which is not to say that that's a wrong way of thinking about it. Like I could see like there could be like good outcomes that would really look good, or there could be harmful consequences to almost anything, I guess. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Like, am I understanding what you're saying?
Yeah, although I really didn't go into details as to why I was saying it, which I'm not going to. So
I
Yeah.
do think also, Sandy, I'm going to mute for a second because you've got very loud feedback coming through.
Yeah, I just started to get comments on that, and I have no idea why or what shifted, because I've been hearing that this week, the last 2 weeks actually.
I'm still
But-
here. I'm just going to turn my camera off for a minute.
But Clara, these two comments from both Hezi and Young God earlier said Clara doesn't believe this is a big meta joke. She thinks it's real and can't believe it. I want to ask you if that's true, because I don't know if that's true.
That's
and then-
fascinating.
So when it depends on what you're talking. Like I mean, like all of social life is a performance, right? So I think everything that we do, on some level, is a performance. That's something I've been talking a little bit about on my live streams, about how we sort of develop a self in a space. So I wouldn't call it a joke and belittle it, but I would say that everything we do, all of social life, including what we do online, would be like maybe like what I suspect Principal Grimm would call kayfabe, or what others would call.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that I think so. And then I also wanted to ask Ezzy's question of where is God in all this? How much of this space is religious? As a quote unquote objective observer, what do you make of that, of Ezzy's observation?
I'm not going to call myself an objective observer. I think I'm just as, I don't know if biased is the right word, just as positioned as anybody in the space. Does that make sense?
That's a very TLC answer, which is a performative confirmation of what you said. So yeah, I guess.
Where is God in all this? How much of this space is religious? That's a question I've been asking y'all, and I haven't quite feel like I don't feel like I can comment on that. I wouldn't say that I know where God is.
But how much of this space is religious? I think you can comment on that.
That is a trick question, because y'all will tell me that everything is religious. So who am I to come in here and say, well, actually, this isn't religious? I mean, I feel like the right answer is, I've observed y'all say, in many ways, everything is religious. So I don't know how to put my finger on that. I don't know how to square that circle. Like, I don't mean that as a cop-out. I just mean I'm here to observe, and I don't really see the answer.
Sandy, what would be your answer to that, Ezzy's observation? How much of this, where is God in all this, and how much of this space is religious?
Okay, but it's my answer. It's not a generic answer. Where is God in all this? He's in the day-to-day. He's the reason I came here. He's the reason that even though I don't watch Peterson or anything else that everybody else came here for, that I found myself in the places that I landed 2 years ago, and have expanded to other places that I'm engaging. I put that down just to an ongoing walk that seems to be a lot of challenges to me. Learn how to walk, kid. You're going to have to grow up one day, you know? Is it religious? I struggle with the is it religious question, or how is it religious question, because there's a lot of argument. So I see, when I think about that question, I feel both joy and sadness, because I see people putting their faith in formulas and people that know the formulas and can figure out the formulas for them, and then trying to have the conversations and do the homework to see if they understood the formulas. I see people being surprised by something they didn't expect when they came just to do formulas and walk away with some kind of engagement, connection to God or people, or both. I'm kind of fascinated by the who loves who and who hates who in which discussions and assigns which kind of roles and identities to which players in the game, because it depends actually where you are and who you're hanging out with and how you're hanging out with them, what you actually see. It's kind of like David's play. If I didn't sit in the third row, I'd have had a completely different experience of his play than I did, because I have limitations of vision, and so much of what gave me the big experience were the things that I had accommodated for by getting closer to the actual scenery. I could watch facial expressions. I could see small hand movements. I could listen to the dip and the rise in the voice, and in the, like, there's a million things that go into making up a play, whether it's on a stage or in real life. And too often we're so busy doing what we've kind of said our brains are designed to do, which is tune out. Why are people autistic? They don't know how to tune out well enough. I get told off for seeing 5 billion layers all at once, and I say something that sounds completely logical and very simplistic, and somebody says, no, what's your question? Pick one. You can't do 10 things at once. And I'm like, I didn't know I was. Things like that. So this is a place where I can't believe I'm going to say this. It reminds me of Jacob's book club 2 years ago, where I got completely ecstatic about reading The Halakhic Man, because it lays out who is the scientific man, the cognitive man, deals with science and all these other things. Who's the religious man? And these are like characters within the character of the Halakhic man, who combines elements of both of the individual aspects that we might present only one or the other of. And somehow, and I don't have it memorized, but I will simply say, if you have or get or read online a copy of this book, go to the back and open to note 4 and read note 4. This place to me is a place to learn what it means to be Halakhic man, and whether you are or aren't, and which direction you tip and tilt, and when and why you do that. I've learned a lot here about myself. And I say all of this in the weird context of coming out of about 10 days of being sick leading up to the burial of my ex-husband, at which I had 2 panic attacks, which was not bad for 2 is not bad. And caught myself listening to my body at a much deeper level than I am used to being able to do, because I'm far too good at dissociation for far too many years. And even at one point where I acknowledged to myself in real time that I was dissociating to cope with something that was happening in one of the car ride there or back, I found myself thinking, you really are healing. There's a lot of healing in this place, because we can pull all of the, costumes out of the box, and we can, dress up, and we can try them out, and we can be ourselves, and we can be our play selves, kind of in a bit of a, I'm not 100% certain if that answered the religion question, but that's because I'm not sure that we define religion very well. I think it's absolutely and essentially religious. We just might not be calling it that well.
Sandy, that was really beautiful. Can I ask, what did you mean at the very beginning, as you were talking about formulations and formulas? There's people who sort of depend I don't know if I got this right, but people who kind of depend on formulas, and then they sort of come away with the unexpected.
Thank you, because my memory doesn't line up properly. It's like, yeah. Like math is formulas. Other, like chemical things or medications. Other things are formulas. Formulas are things that you learn, right? And in the 2 years that I've come here, I came here to recover from too many formulas. In my pre-here days and in the about 7 years before that, the trauma counselor gave me a 3-point homework. Figure out who you are, what you love, break all the stupid rules, and live big. Formulas are like all the stupid rules sometimes when they're not behaving in a healthy manner, So sometimes the rules are good and they help to draw the framework for us. And sometimes they're really not good and they're just stupid rules that we really need to learn to walk away from. That comes out of an abuse context rather than religious, like the discussion that you're asking about. But everything in life has overlap. So when I said some people come for the formulas, it's because we think the rules are safe. We think when we know our catechisms best, when we can define our this from somebody else's that, when we can plant our feet and know they're solidly on ground because we know the formulas, but we haven't actually had to go on the journey to do anything with them yet, or we've gone on a journey that we don't connect to that yet. Sometimes we come just looking for the way out. And some people I've noticed, they come and they're very used to formulas, but what they find instead is joy, like something they just didn't expect, or a revelation. Maybe it's within the category of things they're thinking about. Maybe it's something like North Estuary and all the very people level things that happen there, instead of I'm going to a conference with 3 or 4 major speakers. I'm going to sit in row, 25, seat, Z or whatever. Contexts are super important. And I know for me, like sometimes I've noticed, like I've written to a few people about my son Jacob and the shift in his language the last 6 to 12 months. For me, formula is all the stuff that I did and did a very good job of, playing with the I don't know anything about this, but if I was trying to solve me or his dad in X, Y, Z, what would that look like? Now, how can I apply that to Jacob? And even for doing a ton of things that make all of the professionals go, oh my gosh, that's like absolutely amazing, it's still 38 years later. Everybody hangs out here and says, show me your receipts, show me your receipts, show me your receipts. And I'm like, well, I just got mine, thanks. If people are willing to be surprised, we find different things than we do if we're not willing to be surprised.
I think that's a good place to bring it to an end very quick, but there are a few comments I wanted to go through. Chad wanted you to define performance, Clara.
I apologize. I'm using that in a very technical way. That's just it's a metaphor. The social world. I mean, we could talk more about it, but really, it's a metaphor for the social world is performance.
And Young God wanted to know if you cry watching sad movies.
I only cry when I eat ice cream. Obviously, everyone knows that.
Clara, have you told them what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
I haven't committed to an all-time favorite yet.
I think so. I think that's what you said when I asked you privately. You're consistent.
And finally, and most importantly, Mandy wanted everyone to know that she's posted a GoFundMe on BOM to promote Helping to Save a Friend's Baby. So if anyone's interested in donating or able to donate, check out the link or message Mandy on Discord. I'm sure she'll be willing to send you the link. And also, it's on her Twitter because I've seen it there as well. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Sandy. And Grim Grizz has started his stream, so we'll head over there. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.